Coming up, the Rays bounce back from their first loss of the season and a walk-off in St. Louis. This is Locked On Game to Game MLB.
Every game, every team, every angle. Locked On Game to Game, your team every day.
Welcome in. You're listening to Locked On Game to Game MLB. Local experts join us to go over all of the action for you in baseball yesterday. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you so much for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. Gerrit Cole had himself a nice little Sunday. Didn't head to Home Depot, but he did get a win for Yankees fans in the Bronx. Locked On Yankees is in with a full recap.
This is Stacey Gotsoulias of Locked On Yankees, and the Yankees beat the Twins 2-0 behind a very strong pitching performance by Gerrit Allen Cole, who threw a complete game, only gave up 2 hits, walked 1, struck out 10. He's 4-0 on the season. Still has not given up a home run. DJ LeMahieu drove in both runs, one on a single, one on a solo shot. And this was a marquee matchup. When you looked ahead to this series and saw that it was Gerrit Cole against Pablo Lopez, you figured something good was going to happen. And something good did happen for the Yankees. As I said, Cole, all 9 innings, looked really strong. And Pablo Lopez, 6 innings, 2 runs, 7 strikeouts. Any other day, that could be a quality start and a win for him, but he's up against a guy who's on a mission. Gerrit Cole is on some sort of a mission this season, and Yankee fans, yeah, we're lucky to watch this so far. So let's hope he keeps this up. Yankees have an off day on Monday, but we don't. Locked On Yankees will be doing our Minors Monday feature. We'll have everything else you need to know about this game and anything else that comes up. Oh yes, injury updates. That's right. We always have those on Locked On Yankees, so tune in.
A quick one at Fenway on Sunday afternoon as Boston got a 2-1 win in under 2 hours. Locked On Angels frustrated with a myriad of things after the game.
We've been saying it for years with this team. If it's not one thing, it's the other. What's going on, everybody? It's John Frisch, one half of Locked On Angels, here with you. The Halos dropped their 3rd straight game to the Boston Red Sox 2-1 after a really great start from Reid Detmers, where he only really made one mistake, and that was a fastball that wasn't quite up and in enough to Justin Turner, who took it for a 2-run home run. It's a 2-1 game, and it was close throughout the whole thing. But if it's not the pitching, then it's the hitting that goes cold. And if the hitting's good, then the pitching's not great. But Reid Detmers is the only other starter besides Ohtani to get into the 7th and had a really decent outing. But then when the Angels had a chance to score, Brett Phillips is picked off second for not really any good reason. The fact that a single gets him home, especially with his wheels, he doesn't need to be leading off second like that. So again, if it's not one thing, it's another with this team. When the pitching's good, the hitting's bad, and when the hitting's good, the pitching is bad. Mike and I are going to talk about this on Locked On Angels. We hope you'll join us.
Tommy Edman with the walk-off win in St. Louis yesterday as the Cards edged out the Pirates. Locked On Pirates and Locked On Cardinals are in to go over that very dramatic finish.
Close, but no cigar for the Pittsburgh Pirates on Sunday afternoon as they lose to the St. Louis Cardinals in extra innings 5-4. They had a chance to take 3 of 4 in St. Louis, but just couldn't finish the job. Tommy Edman walks it off for the St. Louis Cardinals in yet another extra innings game. Of course, on Saturday, Andrew McCutchen had the first ever 2-run leadoff home run for the Pittsburgh Pirates, but they couldn't find that same magic in the extra innings today. But they split with the St. Louis Cardinals at Busch Stadium. I would consider that a win for the Pittsburgh Pirates. They head to Colorado for a 3-game set and then return home to PNC Park to face the Cincinnati Reds. My name is Ethan Smith of the Locked On Pirates podcast. I will see you.
Hallelujah, Lord have mercy. The Cardinals walk it off in extra innings over the Pirates. It's JD from Locked On Cardinals, and it was a chilly day at Busch Stadium, but the fans who stuck around and the players all have to feel nice and warm and tingly inside now after that Tommy Edman bases-loaded RBI single in the 10th inning to get the win. Miles Michaelis, he had a decent start today. He allowed 3 runs, 2 of them earned on 7 hits, but again, the Cardinals starter can't go long in a game. He lasts just 5 2/3 innings. Luckily, the depleted and exhausted bullpen did everything they could with only the extra inning ghost runner scoring off of them. Offensively, they pounded out 12 hits. They got a 2-run dinger from Nootbaar, his first of the year, to tie the game up in the 6th. Gorman got the clutch RBI double in the 10th to tie it back up, and then Edman gets your walk-off winner. It wasn't easy, but the Cardinals got the W to finish the week in 4-3, and they've earned a split in the 4-game series with Pittsburgh. Arizona comes to town next. For the latest updates and info, be sure to keep it Locked On Cardinals.
The Rays dropped their first game of the season on Saturday, but less than 24 hours later, they are back to their winning ways. Locked On Rays is in to go over the bounce back.
Well, the Rays go back to their winning ways. My name is Ulysses Zambrano, host of the Locked On Rays podcast. Yes, the streak is over. The historic run is over. Yes, they dropped the series in Toronto, but they win the getaway game behind a terrific start by Shane McClanahan going 6 strong, only allowing 1 run. Even though he looked shaky in the first, he really showed why he is the top arm in that rotation. Now they head to Cincinnati. Let's see if they can go 500 into this road trip and then go back home to face the Chicago White Sox. This is a team that is showing that they are resilient. It doesn't matter what they're facing, they will get back up from the mat. So, for this and much more about the Rays, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Locked On Rays, and follow us on any social media at Locked On Rays. Rays up.
Coming up, the Mariners and Mets sweep their way through the weekend. This is Locked On Game to Game MLB. Today's edition of Locked On Game to Game is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Baseball is back, and there is no better place for you to get in on the MLB action than FanDuel. That's because those new customers get that no-sweat first bet of up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. So just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up, place your first bet, and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win. Don't miss your chance with that no-sweat first bet. FanDuel, official partners of Major League Baseball. Welcome back. You're listening to Locked On Game to Game MLB. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you again for making Locked On your first listen every weekday. The Diamondbacks avoided a sweep by Miami after a win on Sunday. Locked On Diamondbacks goes over the series finale.
D-backs win the series finale, but lose the series to the Miami Marlins. Miller Thomas of Locked On Diamondbacks here. Zach Gallen looks like he's back because he struggled in his first 2 starts of the season, but his last 2 starts, 13.2 innings pitched now without an earned run. Can I say new streak alert? D-backs offense came alive a little bit against the reigning Cy Young Award winner Sandy Alcantara. Corbin Carroll hit a 2-run shot, and the funny thing about Corbin Carroll, whenever he hits a home run, it never seems like a home run, never sounds like a home run, but then it's always crushed to dead center. Really crazy when you think about it. D-backs win the series finale, but they lose their first series of the year to the Miami Marlins. And starting tomorrow, we get to face off against former face of the franchise, Paul Goldschmidt. Hopefully the D-backs can get back on track against the St. Louis Cardinals.
Chicago hopped out to a 4-0 lead after the first inning against Baltimore, but that wasn't enough to beat the Orioles on Sunday. Locked On White Sox goes over a missed opportunity.
The Chicago White Sox lost to the Baltimore Orioles 8-4 on Sunday. They also lost the series. Hey, I'm Nick Morawski from Locked On White Sox. Sox starter Dylan Cease went 6 innings, gave up a couple earned runs. Sox offense did all their damage in the first inning on a pair of home runs by Gavin Sheets and Jake Berger. Sox bullpen has been a mess this season, and this series against Baltimore was no exception, giving up 12 earned runs throughout the series. Sox pitching giving up free passes left and right, 26 walks allowed to the Orioles. Sox fall to 6-10. They take on the Philadelphia Phillies on Monday. Lance Lynn is on the hill on the south side for more. Check out the Locked On White Sox podcast.
A sweep over the Athletics this weekend for the Mets, and Locked On Mets is looking forward to one of their top prospects also getting called up to the big show.
A great weekend for Mets baseball. Not only did they get a sweep over the Athletics, and it doesn't matter who you play, a sweep is always impressive. Brett Beatty is coming up to the show. So the Mets now come off of this great series. They got one against the Dodgers, a very pivotal one this week to go head-to-head with one of the best teams in the National League, and one of the top prospects in all of baseball will be joining the Mets. A lot of excitement there. On the show tomorrow, we'll be discussing what was, again, a great series victory, a sweep. We'll talk about the promotion of Brett Beatty, and we'll preview what lies ahead as the Mets are now set to take on the Los Angeles Dodgers.
The Cubs take 2 of 3 in LA, including a 1-run victory on Sunday. Locked On Dodgers displeased with the outcome and the umpiring.
Look, I don't know if the Dodgers would have won the game if the rules of baseball had been properly enforced. Neither do you. That's kind of the point. What's up? It's Jeff from Locked On Dodgers. Frustrating game, frustrating weekend for the Dodgers. They couldn't hit. Ended in perhaps the most frustrating way possible. All 3 outs in the bottom of the 9th inning were strikeouts looking, and all 3 strike threes were out of the strike zone. Home plate umpire decided, hey, I'm going to do my own strike zone today, and there's nothing you can do about it. And so he took the game out of their hands instead of at least 2 runners on, because Jason Hayward's strike 3 would have been ball 4, followed by Mookie Betts getting on base. Should have had 2 runners on with 1 out, 0 outs. It's ridiculous. Why are we still letting guys with obstructed views make the most important calls at the most important times when we have the technology to get the calls right? Rob Manfred, I'm talking to you. Listen to Locked On Dodgers or something.
The Brooms were out in Seattle as well, as the Mariners were successful against Colorado this weekend. Locked On Mariners with lots of good things to say post-game.
Before today, Luis Castillo had surprisingly never beaten the Rockies in his career, and the Mariners had never swept the Rockies in their franchise's history, but both of those things were finally resolved this afternoon at T-Mobile Park. This is Siding Gonzalez, host of the Locked On Mariners podcast here, and despite the offense trying to Felix Luis Castillo, he does end up getting his first career win against the Rockies, a 1-0 win in which he flirted with perfection all the way into the 7th inning before Jurickson Profar annoyingly ended that bid with a bleeder of a single in his short left field. Chris Bryant followed that up with an infield single, but that was all the damage done to Castillo, who was, again, magnificent this afternoon. 9 strikeouts, 38% of his pitches resulted in a called strike or a whiff. He goes 7 scoreless innings in this one. And oh, by the way, Jarred Kelenic keeps on doing it. He has the game-winning single and a game-saving catch down the right field line as the Mariners get their first sweep of 2023.
Milwaukee took 3 of 4 in San Diego, including a 1-0 final yesterday. Locked On Padres is in to talk over a stinker.
That stunk, guys. What's going on? Javier Reyes here of the Locked On Padres podcast. Today, the Padres end this series against the Brewers, losing 3 out of 4 with the final game a loss 1-0, wasting a Yu Darvish start. That was excellent. He had 12 strikeouts in this one, went 7 innings. But unfortunately, Wade Miley, the mighty Miley, as some would say, striking down the Padres lineup, not hitting with runners in scoring position once, so still hitting below 200 at this point. Some people might say, oh, that was a bad strike 3 call on Nelson Cruz, but in my opinion, you can't drop a donut for the entire game against a so-so starting pitcher and then complain that in the inning with one of the game's best premier closers that a call didn't go your way. It's just been really rough so far. And yes, very exciting that Tatis, he's been raking. The El Nino report is strong right now. But you shouldn't be in a position where we're wondering, can Tatis save us? You have Bogarts, you have Soto, you have Manny. We should not be in a position saying that. But thankfully, in my opinion, they've been so bad with runners in scoring position that should even out, right? The Oakland A's and the Pittsburgh Pirates shouldn't be teams that are hitting better with runners in scoring position. So I think a positive regression to the mean is expected. But until then, we got a series upcoming against Atlanta. Hopefully this is a good week with Tatis returning that things are going to turn around. But until then, stay faithful.
That will do it for this edition of Locked On Game to Game MLB. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every weekday. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On MLB and your favorite team's Locked On podcast on YouTube and wherever else you get your podcasts from. I'm Kainani Stevens. This has been Locked On Game to Game.